Hello, and welcome to a tour of my Doran the Siege Tower EDH deck. This is a Treefolk tribal deck in the Abzan colors of white, black, green. I built this deck originally probably around 2016. This has, of course, been updated over the years as new cards come out, and I'm sure it'll continue to be a work in progress. I'll be including a link to an MTG Goldfish page where I've listed out the entire deck for you to look at if you'd like to follow along or just want a whole bird's eye view of the deck. This deck is built around the idea that treefolk have low power but high toughness, and I want to be able to switch the toughness into power. Power level wise, I'd say it's probably pretty casual. As I explained in a previous video about my Progenitus deck, my playgroup doesn't mind powerful cards, but prefer to not have anything too oppressive or too many infinite combos or anything like that, so I'll show you around and read through every card in this deck and explain a little bit more what the deck is about as we go. Let's dive in and get started. So first up, of course, we have Doran the Siege Tower, black, green, white, for a 0/5 legendary creature, Treefolk Shaman. Each creature assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. Each year that passes brings you inwardly. With memory and might, wield your heart, and the world will tremble. And I'm sure you'll notice this particular card here is covered in writing. This was actually a gift from my husband, and it was pretty common back when Grand Prix were a thing, that when he would go as a vendor, he would take time on his breaks to go around and see who he could find. People who I've followed or players that I liked, and get them to sign cards for me. So this one is signed by Marshall Sutcliffe of Limited Resources. He also addressed it to me. Louis Scott Vargas, Brian David Marshall, and then Huey Jensen. So that's pretty cool, I thought anyway. It's actually signed on a perfect fit sleeve rather than the actual card. Most of the time when I got cards signed, we would sign directly on the card. But this one was special enough that we wanted to keep it nice. So anyway, let's get started with the rest of the creatures. Ancient Lumber Knot. 2 black, green for a 1/4 creature treefolk. Each creature you control with toughness greater than its power assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. The soft creak of trees in the wind is not always cause for comfort. Timber Protector. 4 green for a 4/6 creature, Treefolk Warrior. Other Treefolk creatures you control get +1/+1. Other Treefolk and forests you control are indestructible. In his presence, an ordinary grove becomes a bastion to turn spells and break armies. So this is an important card that makes sure my forests and other treefolk are indestructible. The deck is primarily green, I would say, so protecting the forests is very important. Verdaloth the Ancient. 4 green for a 4/7 legendary creature, Treefolk. Kicker X. Saproling creatures and other Treefolk creatures get +1/+1. When Verdaloth the Ancient enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, put X/1/1 green Saproling creature tokens onto the battlefield. So just a helpful creature to increase the toughness of other Treefolk. Unstoppable Ash. 3 green for a 5/5 creature, Treefolk Warrior. Trample. Champion a Treefolk or Warrior. Whenever a creature you control becomes blocked, it gets +0/+5 until end of turn. Leaf Crowned Elder. 2 green for a 3/5 creature, Treefolk Shaman. Kinship. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may look at the top card of your library. If it shares a creature type with Leaf Crowned Elder, you may reveal it. If you do, you may play that card without paying its mana cost. So this is definitely an important card for the deck, since most of my creatures share the Treefolk type, and possibly Shaman for some non-Treefolk. Yeah, being able to play creatures for free is very important. Sapling of Kalfener. 3 and 2 hybrid black-green for a 2/5 legendary creature, Treefolk Shaman. Sapling of Kalfener is indestructible. Whenever a Sapling of Kalfener attacks, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature card, you gain life equal to that card's toughness, lose life equal to its power, then put it into your hand. Your plans may yet bear fruit. This card rewards you for playing those low power, high toughness Treefolk, and assists with drawing extra cards. Deadwood Treefolk. 5 green for a 3/6 creature, Treefolk. Vanishing 3. When Deadwood Treefolk enters the battlefield or leaves the battlefield, return another target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So quite useful to have both when it arrives and when it dies. And it'll only stick around for 3 turns unless someone proliferates counters onto it or kills it prematurely. Kalfener the Last You. 3 white, black, green for a 3/7 legendary creature, Treefolk Shaman. Vigilance, Reach. When Conifer the last you or another creature you control dies, return up to one other target creature card with lesser toughness from your graveyard to your hand. To reach my age, you must know when to bend with the winds and when to stand tall. Treefolk Harbinger. Green for a 0/3 creature Treefolk Druid. When Treefolk Harbinger comes into play, you may search your library for a Treefolk or Forest card, reveal it, then shuffle your library and put that card on top of it. So, nice card to have anytime in the game. You can tutor up a land if you need, or tutor up another Treefolk. Bosk Banneret. 1 green for a 1/3 creature Treefolk Shaman. Treefolk spells and shaman spells you play cost 1 less to play. Deep in a murmuring bosk, where the tree's memories span centuries, the simple banner of green and copper signifies an elder whose rings number more than a fairy's days. Seed Guide Ash. 4 green for a 4/4 creature Treefolk Druid. When Seed Guide Ash is put into a graveyard from play, you may search your library for up to 3 forest cards and put them into play tapped. If you do, shuffle your library. May you shade 3 generations of seedlings. So often good to have more land when this dies, or at the very least, thin out those unwanted cards from your deck. Everbark Shaman. 4 green for a 3/5 creature Treefolk Shaman. Tap. Remove a Treefolk card in your graveyard from the game. Search your library for 2 forest cards and put them into play tapped. Then shuffle your library. May you rise again from seed to sapling to sentience. Wickerbough Elder. 3 green for a 4/4 creature Treefolk Shaman. Wickerbough Elder comes into play with a -1/-1 counter on it. Green. Remove a -1/-1 counter from Wickerbough Elder. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. Living scarecrows make a mockery of the natural order. Dead ones make fine hats. So cute. Woodfall Primus. 5 green for a 6/6 creature Treefolk Shaman. Trample. When Woodfall Primus enters the battlefield, destroy target non-creature permanent. Persist. So the last couple Treefolk I have here are removal oriented. Dauntless Dowerbark. 3 green for a star creature Treefolk Warrior. Dauntless Dowerbark's power and toughness are each equal to the number of forests you control, plus the number of Treefolk you control. Dauntless Dowerbark has trample as long as you control another Treefolk. As I'm sure you can guess, this one gets out of hand pretty quickly. Black Poplar Shaman. 2 black for a 1/3 creature treefolk shaman. 2 and a black. Regenerate target treefolk. It absorbs the pain of another treefolk, which leaves it bitter, yet addicted to the sensation of agony. Orchard Warden. 4 green for a 4/6 creature treefolk shaman. Whenever another treefolk creature comes into play under your control, you may gain life equal to that creature's toughness. After the rising, a treefolk's mind is as limber and green as its limbs, and is at its most receptive to our teachings. Oak Gnarl Warrior. 5 green for a 5/7 creature treefolk warrior. Vigilance, trample. Roam as you will, your roots remain in the strong earth of your rising. Indomitable Ancients. 2 white for a 2/10 creature treefolk warrior. Odom and Broadbark were the only beings mighty enough to challenge the giant Morin the Destroyer. Their battle lasted 100 dawns until Morin became so exhausted that he fell into namesleep. He awoke as Morin the Gardener. The Tale of Odom and Broadbark. So, just a vanilla 2/10, but gets pretty threatening when Doran is around. Now we are on to the non-treefolk creatures, starting with Secura Tribe Elder. 1 green for a 1/1 creature snake shaman. Sacrifice Secura Tribe Elder. Search your library for a basic land card. Put that card onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. Slain warriors were buried with a tree sapling, so they would become part of the forest after death. Still flavorful there. Eternal Witness. 1 green for a 2/1 creature human shaman. When Eternal Witness comes into play, you may return target card from your graveyard to your hand. She remembers every word spoken, from the hero's oath to the baby's cry. Herald of Leshrac. 6 black for a 2/4 creature avatar. Flying. Cumulative upkeep. Gain control of a land you don't control. Herald of Leshrac gets +1/+1 for each land you control but don't own. When Herald of Leshrac leaves play, each player gains control of each land they own that you control. So, kind of a way to mess with your opponents and ramp yourself. Nylea, God of the Hunt. 3 green for a 6/6 legendary enchantment creature, God. Indestructible. As long as your devotion to green is less than 5, Nylea isn't a creature. Other creatures you control have trample. 3 green. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. This is here mostly to give the tree folk trample, but the activated ability is always nice to have. Umori the Collector, 2 and 2 hybrid black-green for a 4/5 legendary creature ooze. Companion. Each non-land card in your starting deck shares a card type. As Umori the Collector enters the battlefield, choose a card type. Spells you cast of the chosen type cost 1 less to cast. So obviously choosing Tree Folk here to help reduce their cost. Catapult Fodder, 2 black for a 1/5 creature zombie. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control 3 or more creatures that each have toughness greater than their power, transform Catapult Fodder. These days, ghouls are the only abundant resource in Thraben. And that becomes Catapult Captain. It's a 2/6 creature zombie, 2 and a black, tap, sacrifice another creature. Target opponent loses life equal to the sacrificed creature's toughness, and they're more happy to share the wealth. So, again, obviously there to benefit from the high toughness of the creatures in this deck. Avenger of Zendikar, 5 green for a 5/5 creature elemental. When Avenger of Zendikar enters the battlefield, put a 0/1 green plant creature token onto the battlefield for each land you control. Landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may put a +1/+1 counter on each plant creature you control. No real reason for this to be here. Of course, it's a powerful card, but no specific reason that it's in this deck. Silklash Spider, 3 green for a 2/7 creature spider. Reach. X green. Silklash Spider deals X damage to each creature with flying. By the time the spider comes to slurp up its dinner, its victims have been partially dissolved by acidic silk. So spiders are another creature type that have high toughness, and I thought it was important to get some reach into this deck. And our last creature is Autochthon Worm, 10 green, white, for a 9/14 creature worm. Convoke, trample. The trainer awoke to begin the journey from the worm's tail to its head. The sun was setting when she arrived. This is mostly here just to be really big, so yeah, I love this card, which is probably not a surprise to anyone. That will do it for the creatures. Alright, so now we are on to the instants and sorceries portion of this deck. Path to Exile. White, instant. Exile target creature. Its controller may search their library for a basic land card. Put that card onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle their library. Swords to Plowshares. White, instant. Exile target creature. Its controller gains life equal to its power. The smallest seed of regret can bloom into redemption. Obviously, starting out with some removal spells here. Abrupt Decay. Black, green, instant. Abrupt Decay can't be countered by spells or abilities. Destroy target non-land permanent with converted mana cost 3 or less. The Izzet quickly suspended their policy of lifetime guarantees. Abzan Charm. White, black, green. Instant. Choose one. Exile target creature with power 3 or greater. You draw 2 cards and you lose 2 life. Distribute 2 +1/+1 counters among 1 or 2 target creatures. Root Grapple. 4 green. Tribal instant. Treefolk. Destroy target non-creature permanent. If you control a treefolk, draw a card. All the sylvan secrets of this world are etched between my rings. The skinfolk's metal aberrations can rot between my roots. Kalfiner the Last Hue. Frozen Grip. 2 green. Instant. Split second. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. Give up these unnatural weapons, these scrolls. Heart and mind and fist are enough. Cid. Comolite Druid. Putrefy. 1 black green. Instant. Destroy target artifact or creature. It can't be regenerated. We are all decaying, always in a state of near death. One moment without breath, and we begin to break down. Savreya, Golgari Shaman. Mortify. 1 white-black. Instant. Destroy target creature or enchantment. Many who cross Sorin's path come down with a sudden and fatal case of being in the way of a millennia-old vampire. Go for the Throat. 1 black. Instant. Destroy target non-artifact creature. Having flesh is increasingly a liability on Mirrodin. Death Sprout. 1 black green. Instant. Destroy target creature. Search your library for a basic land card. Put it onto the battlefield tapped. Then shuffle your library. They say nothing lasts forever. I say everything lasts forever. Just not in the form you may be accustomed to. Vraska. Merciless Eviction. 4 white, black. Sorcery. Choose one. Exile all artifacts, or exile all creatures, or exile all enchantments, or exile all planeswalkers. I once saw the Obsidian moved into action. Since that day, I've been thankful. They're mainly lazy and dead. Aurelia to Gideon Jura. I love this card. I love that it's fairly versatile, where you can do big board wipes, which exile, by the way, or you can get fairly targeted if there is a problematic planeswalker or a few artifacts that you'd rather clean up. So, yeah. Wrath of God. 2 white, white. Sorcery. Destroy all creatures. They can't be regenerated. Day of Judgment. 2 white, white. Destroy all creatures. Moving into the ramp spells here. Rampant Growth. 1 green. Sorcery. Search your library for a basic land card and put that card onto the battlefield tapped. Then shuffle your library. Nature grows solutions to its own problems. Cultivate. 2 green. Sorcery. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards. Reveal those cards and put one onto the battlefield tapped and the other into your hand. Then shuffle your library. All seeds share a common bond, calling to each other across infinity. Kadama's Reach. 2 green. Sorcery, Arcane. Search your library for 2 basic land cards. Reveal those cards and put one into play tapped and the other into your hand. Then shuffle your library. The land grows only where the kami will it. Dosen the Falling Leaf. Migration Path. 3 green. Sorcery. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards. Put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. Cycling 2. Demonic Tutor. 1 black. Sorcery. Search your library for 1 card and take it into your hand. Reshuffle your library afterward. Worldly Tutor. Green. Instant. Search your library for a creature card and reveal that card to all players. Shuffle your library and put the revealed card back on top of it. Hasselbow soon had the rhino eating from his palm, and the snake waiting at his heels. Afari Tales. Seasons Past. 4 green green. Sorcery. Return any number of cards with different converted mana costs from your graveyard to your hand. Put Seasons Past on the bottom of its owner's library. The seeds of new life take root in the soil of old. So a good late game card to get back a bunch of stuff from the graveyard. Ready and willing. Ready. 1. Green white. Instant. Creatures you control are indestructible this turn. Untap each creature you control. Willing. 1. White black. Instant. Creatures you control gain Death Touch and Lifelink until end of turn. Fuse. Eerie Ultimatum. White white, black black black, green green. Sorcery. Return any number of permanent cards with different names from your graveyard to the battlefield. The ground under our feet is a record of every slight against the world, to be avenged at a time of its choosing. Gavi, Nest Warden. So yeah, similar to the seasons past, just getting things back from the graveyard late in the game. So that was it for the spell suite in this deck. Next up are the enchantments, of which there are just a few. Banishing Light. 2. White. Enchantment. When Banishing Light enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls until Banishing Light leaves the battlefield. So more like a removal spell, but still an enchantment. Aura Shards. 1. Green-white. Enchantment. Whenever a creature comes into play under your control, you may destroy target artifact or enchantment. Gaia forged her soldiers into self-wielding weapons that struck down all impurities. Assault Formation. 1. Green. Enchantment. Each creature you control assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. Green. Target creature with Defender can attack this turn as though it didn't have Defender. 2 green. Creatures you control get +0/+1 until end of turn. So this is here to be a redundant effect for Doran. Asceticism. 3 green. Enchantment. Creatures you control can't be the targets of spells or abilities your opponents control. 1 green. Regenerate target creature. Let my ignominy build walls thicker than iron and stronger than darksteel. Thrun the Last Troll. And now we're on to the artifacts. Swiftfoot Boots. 2. Artifact Equipment. Equipped creature has hexproof and haste. Equip 1. There is great wisdom in rushing headlong into combat. If you're prepared. Kenjik, Captain of the Thousand Swords. Lightning Greaves. 2. Artifact Equipment. Equipped creature has haste and shroud. Equip 0. After lightning struck the cliffs, the ore became iron, the iron became steel, and the steel became greaves. The lightning never left. Slagworm Armor. 1. Artifact Equipment. Equipped creature gets +0/+6. Equip 3. So this is a pretty cheap way to increase the toughness on any creature here. And I have a couple artifacts for mana fixing. Golgari Signet. 2. Artifact. 1. Tap. Add black, green to your mana pool. Depending on your point of view, the seal represents a proud guardian of the natural cycle, or one who has sold her soul to darkness for eternal life. Orzhov Signet. 2. Artifact. 1. Tap. Add white-black to your mana pool. The form of the sigil is just as important as the sigil itself. If it's carried on a medallion, its bearer is a master. If it's tattooed on the body, its bearer is a slave. And then there is no Selesnya Signet here. Urza's Incubator. 3. Artifact. When Urza's Incubator comes into play, choose a creature type. Creature spells of the chosen type cost 2 less to play. Stop thinking like an artificer, Urza, and start thinking like a father. Rain, Academy Chancellor. Alright, and that's it for all of the non-land cards. And coming up next is land. Alright, so we're in the home stretch here. Finally, we have land. Command Tower. Land. Tap. Add to your mana pool 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. When defeat is near and guidance is scarce, all eyes look in one direction. So yeah, easy include here for any commander deck. Forbidden Orchard. Land. Tap. Add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Whenever you tap Forbidden Orchard for mana, put a 1/1 colorless spirit creature token into play under target opponent's control. So this is good that it produces any color needed, but it's more of an on-theme land than anything. Definitely doesn't need to be in here, but I like having it, and I think it's fun giving out the little creatures that come from it. Can kind of play into the table politics a little bit. Of note, these spirits don't fly, so just one thing to keep in mind. Murmuring Bosk. Land, Forest. As Murmuring Bosk comes into play, you may reveal a Treefolk card from your hand. If you don't, Murmuring Bosk comes into play tapped. Tap. Add white or black to your mana pool. Murmuring Bosk deals 1 damage to you. So, good source of green, or it does a reasonable impression of a pain land. Blossoming Sands. Land. Blossoming Sands enters the battlefield tapped. When Blossoming Sands enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. Tap. Add green or white to your mana pool. Temple of Plenty. Land. Temple of Plenty enters the battlefield tapped. When Temple of Plenty enters the battlefield, scry 1. Tap. Add green or white to your mana pool. Brushland. Land. Tap. Add 1 colorless mana to your mana pool. Tap. Add white or green to your mana pool. Brushland deals 1 damage to you. Temple Garden. Land, Forest Plains. As Temple Garden enters the battlefield, you may pay 2 life. If you don't, Temple Garden enters the battlefield tapped. In the gardens of the Conclave, order and beauty are the root of power. Stirring Wildwood. Land. Stirring Wildwood enters the battlefield tapped. Tap, add green or white to your mana pool. 1 green-white. Until end of turn, Stirring Wildwood becomes a 3/4 green and white elemental creature token with reach. It's still a land. So this land is a good surprise blocker sometimes. People often forget that it can become a creature and has reach. And with the slightly bigger toughness, it does still kind of play into the theme of this deck. Canopy Vista. Land, Forest Plains. Canopy Vista enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or more basic lands. The continent of Marasa lies beneath a blanket of dense vegetation, its enormous branches tangled so thickly that some inhabitants never see the ground. Sun Petal Grove. Land. Sun Petal Grove enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a forest or a plains. Tap, add green or white. Temple of Malady. Land. Temple of Malady enters the battlefield tapped. When Temple of Malady enters the battlefield, scry 1. Tap, add black or green. Deathcap Glade. Land. Deathcap Glade enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or more other lands. Tap, add black or green. Darkboar Pathway. Land. Tap, add black. Hush and stay still. No matter how dreary the darkness, the light in the Skellmire is never a good sign. Hogar Canna Wayfinder. Or it can be Slitherboar Pathway. Land. Tap, add green. The Cosmos Serpent carved these tunnels, and his echo remains a twisting aura of ferocity and boundless growth. Hogar Canna Wayfinder. Llanowar Wastes. Land. Tap, add 1 to your mana pool. Tap, add black or green to your mana pool. Llanowar Wastes deals 1 damage to you. Foul Orchard, land. Foul Orchard enters the battlefield tapped. Tap, add black or green to your mana pool. Such a beautiful place for a stroll. Liliana Vess. Overgrown Tomb, land, swamp, forest. As Overgrown Tomb enters the battlefield, you may pay 2 life. If you don't, Overgrown Tomb enters the battlefield tapped. The best funeral shroud is the fabric of new life. Hissing Quagmire, land. Hissing Quagmire enters the battlefield tapped. Tap, add black or green to your mana pool. 1 black green. Hissing Quagmire becomes a 2/2 black and green elemental creature with death touch until end of turn. It's still a land. Woodland Cemetery, land. Woodland Cemetery enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a swamp or a forest. Tap, add black or green to your mana pool. Farmers cut the trees and buried their dead. The dead rose up and killed the farmers. The trees grew back and strangled the dead. Temple of Silence, land. Temple of Silence enters the battlefield tapped. When Temple of Silence enters the battlefield, scry 1. Tap, add white or black. Isolated Chapel, land. Isolated Chapel enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a plains or a swamp. Tap, add white or black to your mana pool. Not every church is a place of faith. Shambling Vent, land. Shambling Vent enters the battlefield tapped. Tap, add white or black to your mana pool. 1 white black. Shambling Vent becomes a 2/3 white and black elemental creature with lifelink until end of turn. It's still a land. Godless Shrine, land, plains, swamp. As Godless Shrine enters the battlefield, you may pay 2 life. If you don't, Godless Shrine enters the battlefield tapped. Judgment without hope. Forbidding Watchtower, land. Forbidding Watchtower comes into play tapped. Tap, add white to your mana pool. 1 white. Forbidding Watchtower becomes a 1/5 white soldier creature until end of turn. It's still a land. This is actually one of my favorite lands in this deck because for just 2 mana, it becomes a creature that could potentially deal 5 damage. So again, one of those creatures that really escalates quickly. Mutavault, land, tap, add 1 to your mana pool. 1. Mutavault becomes a 2/2 creature with all creature types until end of turn. It's still a land. Some worlds possess a hidden core where life's essence constantly surges. Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx, legendary land. Tap, add 1. 2. Tap, choose a color, add an amount of mana of that color equal to your devotion to that color. Most of the time, this ends up being green, since the deck is pretty overwhelmingly green in terms of permanence. Gavany Township, land, tap, add 1 to your mana pool. 2, green-white, tap, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. The protective wards of the church have weakened, and no one can tell us why. It's time to look to our own defenses. Gregel, Militia Leader. Evolving Wilds, land. Tap, sacrifice Evolving Wilds, search your library for a basic land card, and put it onto the battlefield tapped. Then shuffle your library. Without the interfering hands of civilization, nature will always shape itself to its own needs. And then the rest of the lands here are just basic lands. Nothing special really, just what I had lying around at the time, so I'll go ahead and just flip through those really quick. And there we have it. So as you can see, this deck is pretty simple. The strategy is really straightforward. Just a lot of creatures and then trying to deal damage with their toughness as much as possible in combat. I believe this is the second EDH deck that I ever built, so I really enjoy creature-based strategies, and this was one that I just thought looked really fun, and I still enjoy playing it very much to this day. I love that Doran is a very cheap commander to cast, so he's pretty easy to get out right on turn 3 and start swinging in for 5 damage. There's a lot of things about this deck that can escalate quickly or get out of hand if they're not managed, but it sort of forces the table to interact with you and your creatures to keep it tamped down. But yeah, I think this deck is a lot of fun. I'm curious to know your thoughts. If you have any questions or suggestions for my build, or have you played this commander before, let me know in the comments down below. I would love to have a conversation. If you liked this video, maybe go check out my other EDH deck tour of my Progenitus deck. At the time of this recording, it's the only other EDH deck video that I have right now, but I intend to do more in the future. So make sure you subscribe and stick around so you don't miss out. I upload videos twice a week. On Mondays I do crack-a-packs, and on Fridays I have a rotating assortment of different Magic the Gathering ASMR videos, like this one, and other things like product unboxings or specialty pack openings. So yeah, I hope you stick around and join in the conversation. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you back here again soon. And of course, I hope you have a wonderful day.